Welcome everyone to this community showdown featuring the High Elves who shall be led by Chosen One. And today, guys, he faces off against the Dwarves who shall be led by BBBSSS Holder. Now let's go ahead and take a look at these builds and have some fun. So if you guys enjoyed that Kung Pao reference, always a good way to get the day started. And now let's go ahead and look at the High Elf build. So in the front lines for the AP troop option, which is pretty much inevitable, it's going to be a whole front line of the white lines, which of course will do pretty well. They have decent combat stats. And again, the dwarves are probably going to be focusing down chariots and single entities and things like that. So the white lines aren't going to be getting poked quite as hard by the dwarven focus fire to get rid of their martial prowess. This whole front line is going to be white lines. Up in the sky, we do have a great eagle, and I would imagine he brought the great eagle just to keep the gyrocopter play honest. I mean, having one great eagle is enough to really kind of control two gyrocopters. You can bounce back and forth. It's going to force a lot of micro out of your dwarf opponent. And yeah, I think that's probably the main reason he brought this eagle. Now on the ground, he does have regular archers, and I think just one group of archers in total. There must be more. It's just one here. Looking around, I feel like his army's missing. Oh, there's the rest of his stuff. Okay, I was wondering. I was like, where's all the gold going? So he just has one archer, and I would imagine just bringing the single archer just to poke down like slayers and things like that, and just give him some poke on, things that are very, very beat up to finish them off isn't a bad idea. So he actually does have two great eagles, so we're going to see how those eagles are in this matchup. Again, there's no gyro, so I'm quite curious to see how effective they are against other dwarven tools. In the forest here, this is the standard stuff here. You usually see Alariel, the Pigeon Queen. Granted, she is going to be on her horse today, coming in with the heals. You get two nobles on chariots. You heal them up with the single target healing with the Star of Averlorn and the Earthblood, and generally you just get really, really big value. In the back, we have some silver helms with shields just to cycle charge and try and get into the dwarf back line, and that is pretty much it. So now for the Dawi army, let's go ahead and look here. It is going to be dwarf warriors. It's going to be miners into the sunset. And this is like a classic wide dwarven army. Basically, you have a couple cannons in the back with layers of thunder. So even if one gets compromised, there's one on the other side that can cross shoot, and just kind of relatively low tier infantry. He has dwarf warriors. He has miners. Nothing terribly elite, not even longbeards. Because again, there's cannons, actually 3 in total. Man, that is a lot. And also 3 groups of slayers, it looks like. Slayers, and dragonback slayers. Very, very good stuff. Classic dwarf army. For the lord, it is going to be the rune lord, so not going for the, more of a combat lord. And a lot of, high-level dwarf players do opt to go for the standard rune lord just to get the slows. And it's really important on things like chariots, especially like a noble on a chariot. If you can slow it down, focus it with all 3 cannons, and then from there use your thunders to really kind of prosper. It's quite good. Now, the dwarf player is actually relocating his army a little bit. He knows that some of these elite troops are coming from the forest here, which is a little bit unfortunate here on this map for him. So he's trying to get a better angle here, but while he's repositioning, the cannons aren't firing. They could have potentially done a ton of damage here. And some of the white lines actually have taken a little bit of work, but the dwarven guns definitely need to get in position and start shooting. So I guess I was a little bit wrong, but there's not really too many other targets. He could shoot the Great Eagle up in the sky, but obviously if this was like an open field map, he'd be shooting at the nobles or some of those other really obnoxious elements of the High Elf army. For the dwarves, it's obnoxious. So the gun line is shooting in, doing some decent damage against the white lines. The miners are going to be taking the engagement against the white lines, and it's going to be a pretty bad affair here for the dwarves. Miners, obviously not the best combat unit, usually more of a screening unit or something you basically just use to tar pit. But I mean, they do have some AP value, so even against these white lines, they might be able to get a couple of kills and scratch their armor a little bit. Here, there's a nice little kill box. The dwarven gun line is shooting in and should be able to finish off those white lines, and the dwarf warriors will probably push in and be able to kind of, soften them up a little bit. Now on the far side, this is where things get a little bit crunk. You can see the silver helms are coming in, the nobles are coming in, Alariel, the bird. There's a lot of elements, and this is going to be a big push here from the High Elves. There are some slayers a little bit out of position, though, unfortunately, here for the dwarves. You should have had the slayers like up in the hill here, but they are going to be collapsing in from the flank and trying to screen where they can. So slayers pushing in here, slayers pushing in here. These are the dragonback slayers, so this is actually pretty good for the dwarves. Alariel needs to be really careful. She gets like trapped up with the dwarves here, and they're able to get a ton of anti-large fire, or just kind of anti-large attacks on her. That could be really punishing for sure. Now the cannons are a little bit out of position as well. This one's a little bit awkward. This one's still shooting, but it looks like the other one may be kind of scooting into melee combat a little bit. And that sometimes happens if there's like a hill or something else like that that can really obstruct your line of sight. But nonetheless, absolute scrap of a game so far. It's pretty darn close, actually. The nobles have taken a lot of damage. Alariel's taken some damage. Really good crossfire here from the dwarves as they are able to kind of pepper down this great eagle. But oh no, the silver helms in the back are able to kind of outmaneuver the dwarven defenses and get on top of the cannon. Thankfully, though, even dwarven cannon crews have pretty good leadership, so they're not going to break really quickly like other factions' artillery pieces might, like the greenskins, for example. Some of the white lines are eventually able to break through this formation, and the great eagle is going to be pushing in as well. So some of the dwarven guns are compromised here, and yeah, it looks like pretty much all the dwarven thunders are pushed offline. We do have one here that's still holding. It looks like these slayers were able to kind of salvage that position, and also in the process they were able to punch down the noble and get him very low. But again, Alariel probably has plenty of healing, and I would imagine over the course of the game she's going to be trying her best to get that going. Now, both cannons are right here, so the dwarves definitely need to put a huge emphasis on protecting this position, because if it gets compromised or run over by white lions or any sort of other infantry, it's going to be pretty bad. Now, one of the nobles here very low, Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, going down from the dwarf player is actually going to be slowing down this noble to 21 speed, which means that the slayers here are able to karate chop him, and I actually think that the cannons are trying to shoot at him as well. You can see they're obstructed, so I would imagine they're trying to shoot into this formation, but they should be able to kind of poke at him now. White Lions have gotten into the back line. The Rune Lord is going to be rushing in with the remnants of some Dwarf Warriors to try and hold those guys back. But more Silver Helms are coming here on the far side, which probably will be able to get into this cannon. So a lot of things are looking a little bit tough for the Dawi here. Granted, Dwarves are very tenacious, and you can never count them out for sure, especially considering some of the nobles have gone down. And let's go ahead and see. I think I see Alariel here. One noble is running in the distance, and the other noble, I think, is on the far side here in pretty good shape. Now, as far as this engagement goes, you can see the White Lines are being worn down by just massive numbers of Slayers. The Great Eagle as well does not want to be in combat with Dragonback Slayers. So that's quite good. Granted, the Dwarven cannon pieces, one of them is just 100% offline. You can see here it's getting rowed down. And the Silver Helms, if they fall back into this area, should be able to chase down that cannon and make sure it doesn't come back. And some of the Dwarven guns are still online, but the Great Eagles actually have been doing a really good job kind of floating around and potentially shutting down those units. Over here, the Dwarves fighting just tooth and nail to try and secure this cannon. Definitely need to get these Slayers in. If the Slayers are able to rear charge the White Lines, they might actually be able to break them in conjunction with the Rune Lord fighting and a little bit of missile fire. And yeah, here they come. So the Slayers are charging in. White Lines in a little bit of trouble here as the rear charge comes in. Granted, Slayers aren't great against these guys, but if they can get them out of their martial mastery, then White Lines will have pretty poor combat stats. You can see it should be dropping here relatively soon. They're at 26 melee defense, and what is the condition for that? Is it leadership or hit points? Yeah, why is that not dropping? I feel like it should be, because the 26 is there, or maybe it already did drop, I'm not really sure. Oh, they have chevrons, okay, I was just, yeah, it did drop. So anyway, Silver Helm's coming in the back here, charging in once again, and you can see the rear charge of the Slayers, like I said, was able to break the White Lines here. This is a big power play here for the High Elves, able to get a heal, but oh no, he actually moves the Noble out of the healing. He does get the Eagle, but the Noble does miss out on many, many ticks of that healing. He does move back in towards the end, but that Noble could potentially be back up to full health if he had stayed full duration. It's a little bit of a misplay there, but not disastrous. And man, this is a really close game. So somehow the Dwarves with the Slayers are able to secure this high ground position. The cannons are all running for the hills, though. The crews are running, and the Dwarves don't really have too many ways of protecting them. So if the High Elf player is on point here, you should be able to get a Silver Helms and make sure the cannon crews don't come back. As far as Dwarven missiles go, we do, of course, have one missile piece here. We have 25 Dwarven Thunderers, and here we do have 9. So there are some online, but the Nobles are in really good shape, and that's a little bit worrying here for the Dwarves in the end. Granted, having 54 of the Dragonback Slayers is really, really important. Those guys are very, very good against chariots. The slowing effect is quite strong, and they certainly have some teeth. So in the back, there are Slayers basically just running circles around the edge of the map, trying to chase down these Silver Helms. Granted, these Dwarven guns, if they are indeed shooting, should be able to finish them off. You can see that firepower coming in. They're wavering, -13, and probably are going to run off the edge of the battlefield. So Slayers are going to be the name of the game here in the end. Granted, really good play from both players. I mean, the Dwarves are doing a good job stabilizing here in the late game and reforming a battle line, while the High Elves are also doing a really good job chasing down the cannons and some of these other pieces here. So incredibly solid play from both players. Silver Helm's charging downhill, but there are some Slayers for a light intercept, but should be able to actually finish off those Thunders, as most of those Silver Helms are able to make contact. And the fact that the High Elves have the mobility advantage here is really shining here in the late game. So we'll do a little bit of fast forwarding as the players are playing a little bit of cat and mouse and a lot of cleanup on the flanks. The Dwarves obviously going to be moving and trying to protect their last missile piece. And the High Elves do have some archers left, and the archers are actually doing some okay damage against Dragonback Slayers, which, just like we talked about in the beginning, is something that they can be used for. Shooting Slayers, certainly a decent tool. Noble on a chariot thinking about coming in here, but the Rune Lord is waiting for him. I think that the High Elf player was trying to bait out a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin, then just kind of pull back there. But the Dwarves, pretty disciplined, are able to kind of keep their composure. So now the fate for Middle-earth is here. We have the Dwarves versus the High Elves, and the High Elves are looking a little bit beat up for sure. Granted, it looks like they're going to get some fat heals here. They just ran out of ammunition on the archers, so now the archers are going to be moving into attack. And yeah, both players basically just preparing for the final battle. So here comes Great Eagles moving in. Good to be going after the gun line in the back, I would imagine. Chariots are going to be a pain in the butt to deal with, especially since Alariel was able to heal them up. And it looks like there's only one Noble in a chariot here. Slayer's moving in. I would imagine Slayer's probably going to go after the Great Eagle where they can and try and finish off that big angry bird. And you can see it's already taking a lot of damage. Just a couple seconds in contact, and the Great Eagle's already lost like 400 HP. Really, really brutal stuff. Miners have engaged here against the Pure Main Company, who do have Frost Protection and Earthblood, which means those guys are going to be very tanky and resilient. Balance of power is relatively even. It's very, very close. Hard to call at this point. And you can see here these Slayers are going to be going after the Noble with a Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin being popped. So currently the Noble has 21 speed. Slayers probably won't be able to do too much damage. I mean, maybe they're trying to get a surround right now and then pile in, which is a smart play. So basically what he's doing is he's running past the chariot and then he's piling in to attack afterwards. And the Noble is basically going to be taking whatever angle it can to get away. But I mean, that's pretty good damage. He's able to do, you know, what, like 400 or 500 damage, if not more, and force this thing down. Now, in this melee engagement, the White Lines, of course, are proving to be quite tenacious. They do have some armor sundering here as well, of course. The Pyramid Company does have armor sundering, which is very good. And the Dragonback Slayers are also going to be jumping on Alarielle, trying to do what damage they can. But the Slayers are really going to be the X factor. Do the High Elves have enough teeth to finish off the Slayers is the question. White Lions on paper are quite good against Slayers. They have a lot of armor, and Slayers, of course, lack AP. But Slayers do have better combat stats, if I'm not mistaken. You can see 39-33 against 36-24 with the Martial Mastery gun. So there's a combat stats advantage. And Alarielle is being attacked by the Dragonback Slayers as well. And you can see some of the white lines here breaking. This is just a really, really good game between these two guys. And the Slayers are chasing the Noble up in the high ground. And some guns have come back online, which is very important. I mean, even a small gunline presence like this is going to be enough to really, put a leadership damper on things. Chase back this Great Eagle that's trying to come back on the battlefield. There's many things that's going to be very, very strong for. So here the Pyramid Company is going down. It looks like the Dwarves are able to win the melee fight. I mean, the Rune Lord is not a bad combatant in combat. He's 40, 40, 340, I think, for the combat stat line, and also 120 armor and insanely good leadership. But yeah, really good presence of mind here. Getting rid of the guns is super important. Even something like that can force you in and be very, very scary. So the Nobles are charging in. The High Elves don't really have too much going on here. In the distance, they do have the... Alarielle is able to come over here and actually save these archers. Not that it matters, because the archers don't really have much ammo. But I guess, bodies are something, because basically, in accordance... I don't know if this was played in a tournament or not, but basically you would have to have something in combat to be allowed to kind of cycle charge with your chariots and things like that. And the archers being in combat over there does meet that qualifier. Now here in combat... Oh no, look at that. A Rune of Wrath and Ruin goes down. Man, he was... How did he save those? I feel like I've seen more than that, but of course he only has 3. Man, brutal stuff. And the Noble here is just taking a ton of damage. He's actually broken, which is huge. And for the first time in a while, it looks like the Dwarves do pull ahead on the Bounce of Power as they are chasing. And the High Elves are regrouping in the distance, bringing in the archers and the White Lions, just getting ready to do battle and trying to get back to these archers here. And you can see now that the Dwarf Warriors are indeed shattered. Those lads are running for the distance, which they've earned their keep. Those guys have been fighting for some time. And yeah, basically now it's just, he's moving slowly, which is good. So anyone in this situation, you don't need to run. You can basically just move the Slayers. And both players are like, all right, I'm not going to chase you. I'm just going to do my thing. Basically, both players would need to be attacking. But I mean, obviously, they're both just kind of standing there and chilling out. So really nice Tower of Avalorn, able to heal those guys up. I still think it's going to be too much for the High Elves to handle. I think there's too many Slayers left. The Slayers are going to be tough to kill. The Rune Lord is going to be incredibly tough to kill. And the Slayers are probably just going to be able to cut through everything. Oaths will be satisfied this day. As you can see, the Slayers are able to just mincemeat through that High Elf army. And the Noble's going to be charging in. But the Dragonback Slayers do, of course, have that slow. But the Rune Lord's getting a little bit danger low. Alarielle's going deep with that Care Bear magic. But, of course, she does do magic damage. So the Rune Lord is going to be surprisingly tenacious against those fights. The Great Eagle's broken. The Rune Lord's broken, but you can see Alarielle just getting cut to pieces by a horde of Dwarven Slayers. The Chariot comes through as well, but Alarielle's steady, but, oh man, getting kicked in the back by Slayers on the way out. Those Dwarves definitely have some hops if they can kick someone on a horse. So now they're chasing. Alarielle's going to be coming in, and this is it. So this would actually be a rule break in the tournament. He would have to stay in combat with these two characters, but it doesn't matter too much. And you can see here that the Noble is going to be getting cut down by the remnants of the Slayers, I would imagine. It's very, very close. Bounce of Power, we have 10 Dragonback Slayers here, and we have 3 Slayers here. What an absolute scrap. Negative 28 on the Noble, and that is going to be a victory for the Dawi. Man, what a game. What a game by Chosen One and Holder. I'm not sure if that would be a rule break. I'd have to look at that. But typically, if all you have left are single entities, you would have to stay in combat. You couldn't pull back like that, but I don't know if there was stuff fighting elsewhere on the map or things like that. But who cares? It was a really good game. And of course, yeah, well played. It was an absolute scrap. I really thought the Dwarves were in a lot of trouble when their cannon crews went and their guns went. They lost so many elements, but in the end, the tenaciousness of the Slayers was just too much. They actually did really well in combat against the White Lions, the Eagles, Nobles, all that stuff. And it was an absolute nail-biter of a game. So very well played to Chosen One and Holder. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that game. I certainly did. And we'll see you guys back with more content soon. Take care.